I got to say, a lot of the fake news media out there, and there are some good ones in the back there. There's some bad ones too, let's be honest. But they wanted to write a story that this campaign would be the death of Donald Trump's America First agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it ain't the death of the America First agenda.
J.D. Vance at his victory speech in Ohio. I'm joined by former DNC Chair Howard Dean. The question here, who is J.D. Vance? And does his rhetorical contradictions hurt him in a general election?
Well, J.D. Vance is a second-rate writer who got lucky because Arlie Hochschild wrote a book about the same subject. He did a much better job. He's also a huckster. He and Josh Hawley I'd put in the same category. A lot of BS, not much loyalty to the United States of America, slick. Now, you've asked all the right questions in your lead-in, and the answer is nobody knows the answer to these questions. Unlike 2016, where I thought Trump might win, I actually hope that Trump is the nominee this time. He is incredibly divisive. He exhausts people. He's in deep criminal trouble, and it's going to take a long time, apparently, before that gets sorted out. But I also think his brand is wrecked. First of all, his brand is in bad shape, except for his base. And your numbers, your analysis of the numbers of Vance's race is it was a very weak field. Josh Mandel has lost 3. I mean, people look for excuses not to vote for Josh Mandel. He's a toxic candidate. And then the other 2 guys got in a fist fight. So, look, I don't make a lot of this. I do think Trump is shrewd, and he's endorsing the people he thinks is going to win, threw Mo Brooks over the side in Alabama because he thought Mo wasn't going to win, which is probably true. So, and then he's got the stink of the Supreme Court, which is now no longer seen as a particularly legitimate organization by the majority of Americans. That's a terrifying thing for the state of our democracy. So we're in big trouble, and I do ultimately have faith in American voters that they can tell when we're in big trouble, and we are in big trouble.
Well, to paraphrase you, Doctor, you say we're in big trouble and you don't have the answers. So not the most encouraging opening to the conversation, but
well, look,
brutally honest. I want to go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to, Ari, the answers are in the American voters. This is their choice of what kind of country they want to live in. There was a brilliant article this week about the Republicans essentially adapting the same tactics used by Viktor Orban to have Hungary depart from the state of democracy. That could happen here. It's up to the only people that can stop this are the American voters, and they're going to get a chance in about 5 months.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. As for J.D. Vance, I mean, you could run ads in Ohio targeted with people who think Donald Trump is a North Star and just run the old stuff, not the new stuff, where J.D. Vance skewers him. I'm going to play a little bit of this for you. We have both so people can make up their own minds about him. But, gosh, you know, you could really just politically say this is what a never-Trumper he's been, and people can process that. And if you can't trust someone, then how do you want to give them more power? You mentioned the institution behind me where I'm reporting from. We've been covering this, and we have more on the leaked draft opinion that would overturn Roe later in the program. As you say, if you can't trust justices when they say under oath, they say at the time Roe's decided it's a super precedent, and now we're reading a draft that says it's always been wrong. Well, which is it, and did you perjure yourself? And that goes to the point you raised. So with that in mind, here is J.D. Vance then and now.
As somebody who doesn't like Trump, myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's the best president of my lifetime, and he revealed the corruption in this country like nobody else.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
I think that he was a good president. I think he made a lot of good decisions for people.
I take it you're not a Trump supporter from what I've read. Am I right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I didn't vote for Trump. All around, he was a great president. I'm 37 years old. Certainly the best president of my lifetime.
Howard?
Look, that's going to hang him some to a certain extent. But what really matters is what kind of a campaign Tim Ryan wins. This is the first race in Ohio in a long time, other than Sherrod Brown's race, where I thought we could win this. I think we can pick up a Senate seat. Tim is running as a working class guy who's going to look. He is going to run those ads, but he has a message that I think the country badly wants to hear. And Ohio is a +8 Trump state. So he's got his work cut out for him. But I think it's a winnable race, partly because I got to believe that eventually, Ohio I like Ohio. I've spent a lot of time in Ohio when I was running for president and when I was DNC chair. Fundamentally, the people from Ohio are decent, thoughtful people. At some point, decent, thoughtful people can't vote for shysters and people like J.D. Vance or Josh Hawley or any of this other collection of God knows what the hell's the matter with them.
Yeah. Governor, everyone knows what a big Wu-Tang Clan fan you are. I mean, it's kind of your thing. So I'm sure you remember when they would say cream crash rules everything around me, dollar bills, y'all. And that really seems to be what's happening with billionaires taking more control of everything in America, from the economy, which makes sense, that's where they are, to the democracy, to social media that's so powerful when you look at the acquisition of Twitter. Peter Thiel is someone who might not be as famous as Elon Musk, but he was a Trump guy from the beginning. He poured money into this race. I just want to look at one headline here about, because we only learned this kind of after the fact, as you know, $10 million that we know of to Vance, millions in the final stretch, some of which wasn't really under our laws known to Ohio voters. Now, we in the press talk about Mr. Vance. We talk about his endorsements. Those things matter. But how much does these tens of millions of dollars that can go through the super PACs to benefit one candidate matter? Is there a nominee Vance without this billionaire backing?
Well, that's a major problem, too. We have probably not seen as much corruption in the United States since the 1920s, the last time that billionaires were running everything. There was some with Joe McCarthy in the 50s, although the Republican establishment eventually did stand up for him. Although interestingly, they had the deer in the headlights look then, too. A lot of people were afraid of Joe McCarthy. Finally, some really courageous people stood up, and Eisenhower finally said what he privately thought was, the guy needs to go, and he did, and that was the end of him. But this reminds me of the 1920s. A lot of very wealthy billionaires, and not everybody else is doing so well. It ended up with a Great Depression. We're going to heading for a train wreck right now. And the truth is, autocrats don't know how to run anything. And if you don't believe me, look at the mess Putin got Russia into. So that's what we're going to choose in this next election and the one after it. Do we want to live in an autocracy where somebody else gets to make the rules for women, for poor people, for people of color, for kids who happen to be transgender? I think this kind of stuff is disgusting. And I'm betting that the American people's decency ultimately will prove that. And if they don't, we're done. America is over as a dream. I still am an optimist.
Well, you're bumming me out a little bit, but it wasn't,
The stakes are enormous. I'm not bummed.
That...
I think Americans can pull this out, but let's not mistake the stakes. What's at stake here is the existence of the United States of America as the idea, the imperfect as it was when we all came over in 1620 and afterwards. Right. That's what's at stake.
And that, I mean, look, I'm not, people who watch the program know I joke around a little, but I'm dead serious about the stuff that matters. And you are tying it all together in an important way, which is the validity of the institution behind me, the question of actual democracy and self-governance, question of whether we're going to respect people's rights and try to live as a pluralistic society or go backwards. This is all what's on the table. So, Governor, we're lucky to have you repeatedly. I hope we continue the conversation, sir.